Good day and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Temiloluwa, and today we'll be delving into a legal dispute that has stirred the Nigerian entertainment industry. The dispute is known as the trademark dispute over the mark known as Domitilla. So I'll do this by giving a very brief overview of the case, the movie, and also its remake. I would also state the issues that were raised by the trademark tribunal. I would also state the laws that were relied upon by the trademark tribunal. I would also give my opinion and my review about the decision of the tribunal, and I'll also conclude. So for a brief overview, this dispute actually centered and revolved around two parties, Ajayi and Zemanze, and it was as regards ownership rights. And I would also analyze the arguments that were presented by these two parties and the tribunal's ruling. So, the Domitilla movie was produced and directed by the veteran filmmaker known as Ajayi and Zemanze in 1996. 24 years later, there were later plans for a remake, and the entertainment industry was now with news of a clash between the producer and the main character based on an infringement of the main character's rights in the trademark. The trademark was known as Domitilla and Device in Class 41, and it was filed on September 16, 2020. The petitioner, also the filmmaker Ajayi, now petitioned the trademark registry to challenge the registration of the said mark Domitilla and Device claimed to be owned by the respondent. There were several issues that were laid for determination, and some of which of these issues were that a movie title or character name may only be protected as a trademark, and the proprietor is one whose name was registered, bringing about the ownership rights of Mrs. Anne Zemanze, who happens to be the respondent in this case, the official registrant also, who had prima facie exclusive rights. Furthermore, since prior use rights is protected by Section 7 of the Trademarks Act, it means that the proprietor cannot stop someone who has continuously used the same mark before the registration date. Also, there was also the issue that the petitioner had not legally opposed the mark, given the 2-month window as provided for in Section 20 of the Trademarks Act. The trademark was also in the journal on October 21st, 2021, and the petitioner opposed on February 2023, which had elapsed the statutory time limit as prescribed by the Trademarks Act. Also, the last issue, that the court lacked jurisdiction as regards to the time of commencement of opposition raised by the respondent. These are some of the issues that were discussed based on the legal facts of the case. The Trademark Tribunal, in its own ruling, formulated its own issue that whether the respondent was the true proprietor of the trademark Domitilla in Nigeria and is entitled to register the mark under Trademark Act. The tribunal held that the respondent's sole evidence was based on an acknowledgement letter from the trademark registry and were not sufficient to prove true ownership of the Domitilla trademark. The tribunal also conducted a thorough analysis of what constitutes a true proprietor. The tribunal also held that the petitioner was the real trademark's proprietor, as the true proprietorship is determined by the first to use a trademark and not the first in law as relied by the respondent. So the trademark was registered in bad faith due to the respondent's dishonesty in her application. This was the ruling of the tribunal, and the tribunal relied on the Al-Bassam case in the English court that was in 1995, but the case has been taken to the Federal High Court to set aside the tribunal's decision and restore the respondent's trademark. The court made no ruling on the issue of jurisdiction due to the elapsement of time limits. Legally, the tribunal's outcome was supported by some existing statutes, and I'm strongly of the view that the Trademark Tribunal gave effect to Section 7 of the Trademarks Act. The tribunal privileged first use over first registration. The actress that played the Domitilla role, Anne Zemanze, already acquired and built goodwill in that name. However, the tribunal's approach has some drawbacks. The Trademarks Act already provides a time stipulation of 2 months under Section 20 sub 1 to 5, and it provides for the procedures to opposing a trademark registration, and the petition that was brought in by the petitioner was one that was very late, bringing about an overriding of a late petition over a published trademark. The cancellation of the respondent's mark after more than 1 year already bypassed the usual remedy, that is, the judicial review after registration or even the passing of suit. The Trademark Tribunal relied on the registrar's error correction power, although some intellectual property and entertainment lawyers argue that if the producer, Zeb Ejiro, that is the petitioner, was truly aggrieved, he should have opposed when the publication was done in the journal on October 21st, 2021, and this would have saved the registrar from swallowing the normal process, and I consider the powers of the registrar ultra vires notwithstanding the situation. It is trite that in law, due process is very fundamental, making jurisdiction of the tribunal very questionable in this case. Due process is an utmost feature of jurisdiction and it has been enlisted by the court in a plethora of cases, one of which is Madukolo vs. Ikem Delim, and procedural breach in arbitration, in litigation or administrative procedures are taken very seriously. The legal system in Nigeria is built on rules and not shortcuts. So, in my opinion, the Trademark Tribunal decision does not align with the intellectual property standards and principles. The registry stated that the respondent acted in bad faith because Domitilla's name was for the petitioner and not us. But the trademarks law should not also reward a late filer who had no goodwill in a mark, and there are reservations about this decision of the Trademark Tribunal, and it brings about confusion for upcoming registrants. In my view, I strongly believe there should be clearer rules that will link fame copyright to trademarks, and the tribunal also relied on Section 7 of the registrar's power, but it also operates in a grey area of procedure, and the decision of the tribunal is only partially agreeable. The tribunal's decision only seeks to protect Mr. Ejiro's rights to Domitilla, and it brings about a gap in law. The Nigerian Trademarks Act does not have an express provision for bad faith or even unfair registration, and this is why the cancellation was only with respect to an acceptance in error. There is a need for clarity of procedure, maybe an amendment of the Trademarks Act, as sections 18 and 22 of the Act that provides for after publication is very controversial and it could be interpreted in numerous angles. There is a need to strike a balance for prior users, and it should be protected while also upholding bona fide registrations, and it is a landmark case in intellectual property that has stirred reactions that a registered mark may not even be registered or saved forever. And with this, I would like to hear your opinions in the comment section. What is your opinion and what do you think about the trademark saga on the Domitilla movie? Let me hear it. Thank you for watching.